Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final third. And today we are reacting to the Premier League Matchweek 10 results. Been another very interesting week. A lot of good games. To be fair, a lot of wins. I would say there wasn't many draws, but it's very good to see. Good games going on in the Premier League. But before we get into it, Al, do you want to reveal the player from the last video?
Of course, yes. The player from the last video was Kanu. Yes, very nostalgic player maybe in the Premier League, but that was the player from the last video.
Perfect, yeah. So let's just jump straight into it, shall we? Well, the first game of the weekend, well, there were multiple 3 o'clock kickoffs, but the first game in the order is Brighton versus Leeds, and that finished 3-0 to Brighton. Now, obviously, we can talk about both teams, but I'm probably going to ask Al. In terms of Brighton, we've seen them last season do very well in terms of being consistent, having good players, and them performing every week in, week out. This season, obviously, we haven't seen that. Can a performance like this, kickstart their season and build some consistency?
I mean, it's really hard to say because no offense to Leeds whatsoever. Obviously, we did lose to Leeds ourselves. They're not necessarily the strongest opponent, if you know what I mean. And I think, with the quality between the two teams, I think Brighton's just levels above, and we know that already. And as much as it is an amazing win for Brighton and always will be, like you say, the consistency is their biggest problem they've had this season. And yeah, you never know. Maybe this could be it for them to start the consistency. But we've seen it too many times this season with them. They'll get a win and then the next week they get a loss, win, loss, or even a draw. So you know what I mean. It's hard to really tell. It's the Premier League. You never know. Sometimes they could have a weak opponent the next week, and you expect them to win, and they just don't. That's the Premier League. And with Brighton, I feel like that's what it's been like with them. You know what I mean? Sometimes they get some unexpected wins. I think against Chelsea, of course, they won 3-1. That was a really good win for them. But then again, like I say, it's just inconsistency, really. And yeah, I think if they can, build up some momentum before the international break and just, bring on some consistency, they could probably challenge for Europe again. But yeah, no, that's just their main problem for me. It's just the consistency. And if they could just sort that out, then yeah, they could easily get Europe this season.
Yeah, obviously, Hassan, looking at the Leeds side of things, they are a promoted side. Some might say they are maybe the weakest of the three. Do you think that, let's say, they are the weakest in terms of position of the top of the promoted sides from the previous season?
Well, currently, I think Burnley are actually 17th and Leeds are 16th. So, on the table side of things, you can't really say they're the worst team because
it's very close. I think Burnley have had better results, you could say.
I guess, yeah. But I think Leeds have had difficult opponents. I mean, obviously, start of the season they had Arsenal and they also had Spurs, and they narrowly lost to Spurs as well, to be fair. So it wasn't like they got completely thrashed. But obviously against Arsenal's the best team in the league right now. So I wouldn't, have any alarm bells ringing for Leeds because they've had some decent wins. I mean, they did beat West Ham, so it's like they haven't had terrible performances. They've tried their best. But I think with Leeds, obviously they were suffering out of the most teams, I'd say, because the transfer window has not been as good as the others. So I guess you can say that in terms of the squad, they might be the worst, but I think they can get results here and there. Because it just proves they're a good team with fighting spirit, but maybe not to the quality of the other teams in the league. But yeah, I mean, it's to be expected against the likes of Brighton. They're always going to lose the game. 3-0 might be a bit of a tough score to swallow, but it's part of the game. When you're against a team like Brighton, who's in form right now, they have the likes of Danny Welbeck, who's he's just great right now for them. So there's always that goal threat that's going to come up against you, and Leeds do not have that quality to stop danger like that happening. So yeah, it's just it is what it is. It's part of football. Sometimes a bigger team just dominates a smaller team, and yeah, it's just part of the game. What about you, Khalas? What do you think?
I mean, the game obviously finished 3-0. It's probably a very expected result. I don't think any of us... Obviously, it is Brighton at home too, so you would have given them the edge there. The quality gap is there to be seen, even though Brighton have been inconsistent this season. I think Leeds' lack of investment in the summer, in terms of they didn't really buy and invest as much as the other two promoted sides. I think that will affect them throughout the season. And these are the type of games where they sort of should try and get results from. And they didn't give much of a fight, and yeah, I would say it's a very fair result at the end of the day. So, yeah, all credit goes to Brighton, and hopefully they can start kicking off, and because we know how good they can be when they play football consistently. So, fair play to them. We'll move on to the next game, and it's the current league leaders, Arsenal, who beat Burnley 2-0 away from home. Al, we've talked about Arsenal a lot over the last couple of years, to be honest. How they've not been, how they start the season strong and then always fall off near the end of the season. Do you think now they're finally showing some consistency? I know it's the start of the season and there's a long way to go, but do you think they are showing sort of the mentality and especially with their defense as well, of potential title contenders?
Look, man, it's really hard to say, because when you look at their first season when they challenged for the title, it's kind of they're having a similar season. They started the season amazingly. I think they led the season, the league, up until January or the Christmas time, and then they ended up bottling the league. So
longer than that, I think it was in March.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So with Arsenal, it's really hard to be confident in them in terms of winning the league, because look, it's been 3 seasons in a row they finished second, you know what I mean? It's just, how can you have confidence in Arsenal to win the league? Do they have the mentality? That's the biggest question. I think that's been the biggest problem. Always towards the end of the season, they just bottle it in games that they shouldn't be bottling it against. I remember, I can't remember if it was in the first time they were challenging for the title or the second. They ended up drawing to West Ham, and then they either drew the next game after that or lost. And then from there, they just ended up bottling, games and just lost the lead and gave away the league. And if I'm being honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it again. However, one thing I'll give them is they've got probably the strongest squad in the Premier League for me. They've really improved in terms of depth during the transfer window, which is something you got to give them. And even I looked at something the other day, and it was basically someone put out basically their first 11 and then what would be their second 11, and fair play, their second 11 is probably better than most teams in the Premier League by country mile. So it just shows the depth that they have. And realistically, if they don't win the league now, I don't think they'll ever win the league, to be fair, bro, because it's just embarrassing. Three seasons in a row now, finishing second. You can't do it again. At this point, I think if they don't win it, I think it could be a downwards trajectory for them. I know it's crazy to say, but I was just saying, you really need to get over the line, get that trophy to really push on and be that dominant team, like Man City were for the last God knows how long. But yeah, no, the important thing is the mentality towards the end of the season to be able to win those games. When you're under the cosh, if City start to creep up on them,
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Yeah, they always seem to sort of bottle it near the end of the season, but the way they've started and the defensive performances have been fantastic, and let's see whether they can keep it up. But Hassan, there's been one player that Arsenal bought this summer who's been under quite a lot of criticism, who's, to be fair, you look at the stats, he's scored quite a few goals. Victor Gyökeres. Some say that he's had probably his best performance in an Arsenal shirt. Obviously, it's only the one goal, nothing too crazy, nothing, of the levels of Erling Haaland, Kylian Mbappe and all of these lot. But do you think that a potential performance like this can, help him kick on and, reach the levels that we thought he could achieve?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, every player needs time to adapt and, improvise in the league, because, Gyökeres has been in the Premier League before, or against Premier League teams, because when he played for Brighton, but obviously he was much younger then, less experienced, so obviously you can't judge him from that perspective. But at Sporting, he was class, world-class striker. So I think people are too quick to judge when it comes to a player not, easing into the league and stuff. Because there are likes of Verts and Verts who's come in and for a very, very high price tag and hasn't, done well at all. But I feel like, Gyökeres, even with his bad performances, has still, come in with, decent goals, for Arsenal. I mean, against Atletico Madrid, he had 2 goals. So, he's still come up with goals, even if he hasn't had the greatest performance as a striker. But in this game, he's done the opposite of that, where he has scored a goal, but he's actually done good in terms of the hold-up play and, creating chances for other players. So, yeah, we know Gyökeres' qualities. I think, as I said before, he just needs time. And I think before Arsenal started the season off, I thought that he'd be the best signing, and he could still potentially be that, because we know Arsenal, they were doing really well without a striker. So if Gyökeres starts doing really well and getting into form, then Arsenal can definitely get first place and might win the league. But it all depends on him, and if he starts playing well for Arsenal, I think Arsenal got a very strong chance. And if they don't win the league, then it's going to be signs of just giving up, because a team finishing 4 times in a row second place, the team is going to start thinking they're cursed, or something's going on. So yeah, it was just the mentality needs to be strong, and they need to start winning every game in order to win the league, obviously. So yeah, that's what I think about Gyökeres. I think he's a class player, and yeah, he just needs more time.
For me, I just wanted to mention, I know Burnley obviously are a part of the game, but we expected Arsenal to win this game probably with a clean sheet as well, the way they performed this season. So yeah, I don't think Burnley had much of a chance. But I think one standout player who's been Arsenal's probably, some might say, player of the season, Declan Rice. Al, you could probably talk about him a lot. To be
100%.
fair, me and Al had a lot of conversations about him back when he was at West Ham, and how
100%.
Underrated he was, and how that if he was in a top 6 team, he'd be rated as one of the best midfielders in the world. And obviously his word has come to fruition. So I will say that Declan Rice, fair play to him. He's a complete midfielder. Maybe not the most elegant on the ball. Maybe doesn't look very, very, there's like footballers that look silky on the ball, like Pedri or like De Jong, or like all of these guys who are very, very good on the ball.
Yeah.
And Vitinha, exactly. But they got low center of gravity. I think Declan Rice, because he's so tall, because of his build, I think he looks a bit clunky. But in the way he plays, he doesn't play clunky at all. He's unbelievable. He can do every part of the game, which, I think Arsenal needed a midfielder like that for a long time. And now that they have that, obviously he's been there for a while, but I think now that the squad's looking a bit more complete, I feel like he can have much more of an impact, because obviously with the set pieces, he's become, the staple on corners, on free kicks, scoring, assisting, and he's been a fantastic player for them. And I think this season he will step up even more and potentially help them win one of the titles of the Prem, maybe even the Champions League, probably an FA Cup. You never know. Whatever they win, they should definitely need to win a trophy this year. So, that's what I think of Declan Rice. Let's move on to the next game, and that is Crystal Palace versus Brentford. I will say one thing about Crystal Palace, Al.
Yes.
They have become a team who's become very consistent.
100%.
Over the last couple of years, they've had very, very good flair players, and that's what they've been known for. But I think now they've become more of a machine in terms of the total squad. I feel like from goalkeeper, defender, midfielder to attack,
The balance.
maybe there's not as much flair. It's a very good balance, exactly. Do you think now Crystal Palace should be one of the top teams challenging for the top 4, maybe?
Possibly. My only worry for them is the depth in the squad. If a player like Gahey gets injured, or a player like Mateta gets injured, it's a massive, massive impact on them. Unlike, for example, if Gyökeres gets injured for Arsenal, I don't think it's as much of an impact on Arsenal as it would be for Palace if Mateta or Gahey get injured. But one thing I want to say is you got to give a massive amount of credit to Oliver Glasner for what he's done since he's come in at Palace. All this success they've had is because of that man. Nothing else, in my opinion. Of course, the players as well, because they got to do the job on the pitch. But he's made them into the force that they are now. And realistically, I think when he leaves to go to a bigger club, it'll all come falling down for Crystal Palace, which will be really sad. But at least in his time there, he's managed to win them a trophy, which, I think it's the first trophy in their club's history, if I'm right in saying that, from what I hear, they won it, which is crazy. It's crazy for them. We know how much that means to the fans. Like when West Ham won the Conference League, that meant so much for us, and it's such a good time, and obviously they're in the Conference League now. You never know, they could easily win that as well. And yeah, like you say, top 4, it is a possibility, but I just think the other teams that could challenge to that just have a bit more depth. And I think now obviously you never want to wish an injury on any team or any player or this and that, but it's inevitable in the Premier League with the physicality of the Premier League. Someone's going to get injured in that team, and unfortunately for them, if it's one of the big ones, it's going to be hard to really replace them. You never know, they might be able to go, work through it, but it's not easy. And for a team like them, because they can't compete in terms of in the transfer window either with these big clubs, it's hard to get that depth, you know what I mean? But again, just so much credit to Palace, and Mateta again with another goal. Mateta, boom boom boom, Mateta in the room, you know what I mean, as they like to say. That's what I have to say though on Crystal Palace.
Yeah, you summed it up quite well. Crystal Palace doing great this season, and kind of following on what they did last season, and yeah, fantastic from them. Hassan, maybe on the Brentford side of things, there's not really much to say. I think it could just be one of those, one-offs, I guess, because they have been good this season. But obviously at home, away from home, maybe you could say their form's a bit of an issue. I don't know. What do you think on the Brentford side of things, Hassan?
I don't think there's anything major to worry about. I think obviously they've had very impressive wins against big teams, likes of United, Chelsea, and who else they beaten? Spurs, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken. Liverpool, my bad, yeah. So yeah, very impressive wins for them, and a lot of people underestimate them, thinking that they'll either go down and get relegated or just not be the same team as they were previously. Which they might not be as strong of a team as they are from last season, but they are definitely a very strong-willed team, and they will not back down from any hard opponent. They'll definitely give a good game to any team in the league. And and away from home, obviously that does play into Crystal Palace's advantage, especially Selhurst Park. They've had good results there, Crystal Palace. So yeah, I don't think that it'll be easy for any team to go there and get a result. But yeah, you got to give credit obviously to Crystal Palace. From top to bottom, they're a very strong team. We know Dean Henderson at United. He was a very impressive young goalie, and he's gone out there and proven to himself that he's a very good proven goalie. I think he was crucial in this game as well. He made a few good stops, and and I think as well when you look at the stats, Brentford had a fair share of possession as well. So it's not like they were sitting back and not trying to create chances or whatever. It seems like they've tried their best to score a goal or two, but Crystal Palace, as we know, got a very good defense and a good goalie. So yeah, it's going to be difficult to score against a team like that. And I think Brentford, they got keep their heads up and look to the next game and try and get a result there.
Yeah, agreed. I think Brentford can definitely, this is probably just a one-off. Crystal Palace are a great team, and when Palace at home look to be and are fantastic. So yeah, Brentford shouldn't really have anything to worry about. But I will move on to the next game, and this one's a very interesting one. Fulham versus Wolves. Fulham won 3-0. Al, I'm going to ask you on the Fulham side of things. Obviously, they're another team who's been very inconsistent this season and actually been very disappointing. A win like this, although it's against a Wolves side who look distraught and dismantled, and all the bad words you can put on a football club, not even just a football team. I think, or actually, what do you think in terms of again, can this build momentum for a club like Fulham and potentially help them?
I think this is a similar situation with the Brighton game. I think it's hard to really make a judgment on Fulham at the moment because, no offense to Wolves, I think even the Wolves fans are going to agree with me. They're so bad at the moment. They're not Premier League level at this rate. Are they even Championship level? You know what I mean? So hard to make a judgment on Fulham based off this game, because even though it's such a convincing win, 3-0. First of all, Wolves got a red card in the 30th minute. You know what I mean? That's already gives them such a massive advantage, even on top of the fact that they're at home. And yeah, and it's just it goes all tits up really for Wolves after that red card. And obviously Fulham ended up getting 2 goals after that, and even Raul Jimenez got an assist in the 9th minute for the first goal, showing his impact on the team. And we've talked about how impactful he can be for Fulham when he plays. He's such a great player for Fulham, and so the more he plays and the more he can have an impact on Fulham, then of course they can win games. But again, because it's such a hard thing to judge Fulham on because of the opponent, it's hard to say, can they really build momentum? I think obviously you can only tell by watching the next few games and whether and the results that they get from that. That's the only way you can really judge whether they can build some consistency. One game's not enough. It's just not enough. But it's still an amazing win. No doubt about that. I'm not trying to put them down or anything, but I'm just saying it's, I think they'd agree. It's no offense to Wolves, that it was an easy win, an expected win. So yeah, again, you just have to look to maybe the next game to see whether they can build any consistency. But no, it's still a really good win for them. And on terms of Wolves, I've never felt so bad for a fan base in my life. I'm seeing I've complained about the lineups that the West Ham managers have been putting out. Apparently, it's the same issue at Wolves, and obviously Vitor Pereira got sacked, which deservedly so, because he is bloody awful, man. Jesus Christ. I don't even know how he got a contract extension at the start of the season. But yeah, that's it. That's all I've got to say, to be fair, about that game.
Yeah, Hassan, obviously, Ali mentioned about the sacking of Vitor Pereira. Sorry, Vitor Pereira, not Victor. Yeah, obviously, we've seen how poor Wolves have been this season. There have been links to potential new managers. There was the links to Gary O'Neill, but obviously that's been shut down now by Mr. David Ornstein. And as of recent, our former manager, Erik ten Hag, has been linked with the potential move back to the Premier League. Now, obviously, Wolves have been very poor this season. Erik ten Hag had a very bad start with Leverkusen and got sacked after 2 games. Do you think this is a combination that can, help Wolves, or do you think it could be a combination of disaster?
I think it's a big red flag for Wolves to get Ten Hag. Obviously, getting sacked after 2 games is unheard of, I don't think that's what Wolves need, I think they need a manager who's proven to be, quite reliable. I don't think Ten Hag is a reliable manager. So yeah, I think they need to rely on someone who's, ideally had Premier experience, but someone who's not had, a bit of a shocking history with, other clubs. I think with Ten Hag getting sacked after 2 games, you have to stay away from that and find someone else. Look, I don't know what manager there is out there for Wolves to get, but I say just get someone that can play a good style of football and also has had a good record of other clubs, because, that's what they need right now. They need someone who knows what they're doing and can steer them in the right direction, because they haven't had a, proper direction with this coach that they had for a while now. So, yeah, I think it was the right choice to sack him, but obviously, at what cost? They extended his contract, too prematurely, and, just let him stay there for too long, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, you can say they did it to themselves at the end of the day, by extending his contract. But yeah, I guess now it's just for them, need to find someone else and, hopefully, take them into, hopefully not, let them get relegated, because right now they're in relegation form, possibly the worst start to any Premier League team I've ever seen, in a very long time. So yeah, they need to definitely get a win, because they've had no wins whatsoever under their belt. So yeah, that's what I think. What about you, Hollis?
I mean, yeah, we talked about the sacking of the manager, obviously deservedly so, which, we've mentioned it before so many times. I think he got a contract extension after losing 3 games in a row, or 2 games, or even 4 games, whatever. It's unbelievable how he got that contract to begin with. You can say it's based off the season before, but you can't do that. You can't, especially when the new season started. If you're going to give a manager a new contract, it should be during the summer, when you can back him and when you can, help him more, you know what I mean? But not during the season when he's had a bad start. And obviously that's cost them probably a lot financially. And, they're making very stupid decisions in terms of why they're going back to Gary O'Neill, a manager who, okay, when he was at the club, he kind of got sort of done over by VAR and, all of the officiating. And to be fair, every club has, but they got the worst of it, to be honest with you. Because I've discussed it with Ali as well and Hassan too. The officiating for Wolves last season was unforgivable. It cost them a lot. The only reason they were probably still in the league, or, even a decent finish, was because they had that strong end to the season. So yeah, it's hard to see what manager they can bring in. Erik ten Hag is probably not the correct fit for me. He could come in and do very well, you never know. But for me, that's not the correct fit. And yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see who they bring in and whether they can come and do a job and potentially save them from inevitable relegation for me. But we'll move on to the next game, and it is Nottingham Forest versus Manchester United. It ended 2-2. Al, on the Nottingham Forest side of things, this is Sean Dyche's first result in the Premier League. I know he beat Porto in the Europa League, But obviously against Manchester United, great result, I would say. United were on the back of 3 wins in a row. And, in terms of performance, I thought Forest were quite good, to be fair. Do you think now they can kick on? And because obviously they were in the bottom three, I think at the time of before the game, and I think now they're trying to push out of that too. So do you think now they can also kick on and make an impact with Sean Dyche?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, look, the way they played is the way I expected them to play for a Sean Dyche, team. And the good thing for Nottingham Forest is that they got a good squad, good quality players. And when you got that, and a manager with Sean Dyche and the way the Premier League's moving, like I said, I think it's kind of perfect at the moment. Because obviously set pieces are a big thing right now in the Premier League. A lot of teams are relying on them and getting a lot of goals from them. And with the way, I'm pretty sure you said it, they scored a set piece goal in the game. So it just shows, how important they are so far this season. And yeah, no, fair play. I really expected them to play well, to be fair. Maybe not. To be honest, I didn't think they'd get a result. I thought they'd play well, but I didn't think they'd get a result. I thought Man United would win the game, but fair play to them. They held in, especially towards the end when Ahmad had that chance and there was the goal line clearance. It was amazing from Murillo, who is someone, that's so important to them. So yeah, no, I like Murillo as well. I think he's a really good player, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets snatched up by a bigger team, to be fair. But going back to it, yeah, no, Nottingham Forest, I think they can go on to do really well, maybe possibly Europe. I know they're in Europe now, so maybe if they, do well and then maybe possibly win it, might be a bit hard. But no, I think Sean Dyche, yeah, he started to implement his style. And I remember when he came in, the players were really excited. They were very happy to see him come in instead of, having to play Ange Ball, which I can't blame them. That is literally a punishment, to be honest. The poor guys couldn't have been nice. And yeah, no, so it's good now that they got Sean Dyche, stabilised the team, got them a good result, and I'm sure they'll kick on now from that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, coming from Ange Ball, the ball, when they try to play on the halfway line and play stupidly high possession, stupidly high line, it's going to be hard to learn that in such a short period of time. But obviously, going back to basics, going back to the Brexit football, sometimes you love to see it. Obviously, a bit pissed it was against my club, but unfortunately, that's how it goes sometimes. But talking about my club, Hassan, I kind of wanted to ask you about one player in particular, and probably the player who's the poorest in the team right now, and that's Diogo Dalot. He cost us, you could probably say, in multiple different games, and you probably say he had a very poor performance today as well. I also wanted to ask, do you think that this is 2 points dropped or 1 point gained?
It's quite difficult to say, to be honest, because before coming to the game, you'd expect the easy win. We come off the back of 3 wins in a row, and Nottingham Forest are not the team they were last season. So you'd think that even if it's away from home, we should definitely win this game. And yeah, in regards to Dalot, he's just not been great at all. I think he's definitely the weakest link in the team, but I think it's more because of him trying to settle in Dorgu. He knows Dorgu's not really ready to be the starter in the squad. So as he did with Sheshko at the start of the season, he's been easing him in the team and stuff. And I mean, Dorgu's still a young player, and he's definitely better than Dalot in terms of the potential. But obviously, you cannot start a 20-year-old every single week. So yeah, I think that Dorgu does need to start eventually for most games, because Dalot's just a hindrance in the team. He's not tracking back, he's not defending well enough. Even in attack, he doesn't provide much. He just goes and carries the ball forward a little bit and just passes it back. So yeah, he doesn't do anything creative with the ball either. So he's just not doing anything good for the team. And and also I wanted to point about the 2 point, is it 2 points lost or 1 point gained? Look, I think during the game we played awful, so I don't think that a draw is the worst result. We didn't have a terrible first half. I think it was quite equal between the two teams, but I think second half, the start of second half wasn't great. Obviously conceding 2 goals that quickly, back to back, was not good at all from us. So yeah, we definitely need to do better in terms of defending from set pieces. It was very disappointing to see that. I think it's it's kind of because of Amrin putting Ahmad that right wing back. He can't defend the back post really well. So yeah, we do find someone who's better defending. Ahmad can definitely do the role good in terms of attacking, but I think in the defense, we're kind of lacking when it comes to the right wing back section. So I think we definitely need to invest in more wing backs. Probably the left wing back, we can rely on Dorgu for now, but I think right wing back is definitely our weakest point. And yeah, we'll have to see what we do with that. But regardless, credit to the team for getting a goal back. Ahmad with a wonderful screamer, insane volley, but not good enough for me. I mean, obviously United's trying can't get us trim anymore, but we'll have to see how the team plays out now next week against Tottenham. So hopefully the team does play out well, and I mean, it could be worse. It could have been a loss, but I think the team did well to fight back and get a point in the end. So it was a well-deserved point from us, but I think we need to do better and get a win against a team like Nottingham Forest.
Yeah. On my point of view, obviously I'm a United fan, so I probably won't mention Nottingham Forest that much, but maybe a little point here and there. Fair play to them. The goals they scored were very good in terms of they were goals that I don't think Lamens could do anything about. So none of the blame goes on the goalkeeper for me. You're right. I think both goals were probably on the fullbacks. Ahmad's not a fullback, obviously. He's a very good attacking player, as you saw from the goal and that technique for the goal. Yeah, again, he's not the tallest player either, so he's not really likely to win a header, even though, I think he contested for it. But I thought the header was unbelievable. It was right in the corner. Lamens had no chance, even though I think he got fingertips on it, to be fair. It was a great goal. And obviously, even the second goal for them was good. There was also one controversial point I wanted to mention, too, that corner for the first Man United goal. I don't know, it's a bit of a strange one. It looked like it was still in. If I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, but I'm surprised VAR doesn't intervene there, and even going like technology. I think that obviously it's not the goal line, but it's still there should be like a line technology. What I mean, because that does cost teams. Obviously I had a feeling the second I saw that corner was given, I knew we were going to score from that corner. Do you know what I mean? It's like because if that was against us, it would have happened. So it kind of goes around and roundabouts because I've seen us concede goals from that, and obviously we've scored from it too. So yeah, I could obviously mention a lot more things. The squad does need to improve. We do need to invest more, but yeah, we could be here all day if I sat here talking about Manchester United. So let's move on to the next game. The next game was Tottenham versus Chelsea, and obviously Tottenham lost 1-0 at home, which seems to be the story of their season, not being very good at home and being very good away. Yeah, look, Tottenham have Manchester United in their next game, and obviously and it's actually at home too. So, we talked about how bad the home form is. Do you think the Manchester United game could be an opportunity for them? Because we all watched the game and how poor and horrible.
Yeah.
If anything, it was proper haram ball from Tottenham. The way they played.
Man.
Do you? Yeah.
My prediction went straight in the bin, bro. I don't even know what made me think that Tottenham could possibly win this game, because now looking back at it, I remember after I'd made the prediction and the video went out, I was looking back at it and I was like, oh my god, I just forgot the amount of times Tottenham have lost to Chelsea, even at home, and I was like, oh my god, I've made a mistake. And it showed in the game again. They lost to Chelsea at home. Not a surprise. I mean, even the bloody Chelsea players starting to call it a 3-point lane and whatnot, and just bantering them about the whole thing. I mean, even the players like I can't remember which player it was, which was one of the Chelsea players, but one of their Instagram posts put the location as home sweet home or something like that, or something like that, just to take the mick out of the Tottenham players, which I thought was actually quite funny, to be fair to them. You know what I mean? A bit of banter. And one player in particular that I want to give so much credit and a highly rate is Caicedo. Now, I know Carlos earlier was talking about Declan Rice. Caicedo is that player for Chelsea. I think if Caicedo's not in the team for Chelsea, completely different game, because it was him that got that goal. Realistic, that pressing on Van der Ven, which obviously Van der Ven, God knows what he was doing for that. Should have just cleared it first time. And yeah, no, it was just a lot of that, really. It was just Chelsea pressing Tottenham not being able to, make the passes, and the passing was just awful. And yeah, look, I think a lot of people are acting as if Tottenham are having some awful season. I mean, they're still up there in the league. They're not necessarily having the worst season ever. And yeah, I don't want to say they shouldn't be worried, because the home form is dreadful, and that's something.
Can I just say one thing? I know you're saying for them not to worry and all that, but like you said, the home form is dreadful.
That's what. No, I was just going to go on to that. Yeah, I was just going to go
And
on to
even
that.
you look at the end of the game. Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
Yeah, then
no, 100%. No, I was going to say the end of the game was awful, and even between, not even just in the game. I'm on about after the game with the two players, Van der Ven and Spence. The way they reacted to the manager, I thought that was disgraceful. Because like Thomas Frank, he's a good guy, man. You know, he seems like a nice guy, this and that. And I get you're frustrated, but you cannot ignore the manager like that with that kind of attitude. Disgraceful for me, absolutely disgraceful.
Especially captain for Tottenham.
Yeah, 100%. And what I was going to say, yeah, and like I was going to say about the home form, it's just, yeah, it's been woeful, and that is something a lot of teams like try to rely on in terms of getting points and having an advantage in those games. You know, the fact that they're at home and they got the fans behind them, but obviously this season just hasn't gone for them, which is really weird. And yeah, no, it's not ideal, and something needs to be changed about that. I don't know how they're going to change that realistically, but I think if anyone can do anything about it, it's Thomas Frank. I still rate him. I think he's a great manager, and I think he can still do really well with Tottenham. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe they need to buy a few more players to just like sort of like they got Xavi Simons. I think he's just not looking great so far. Obviously, it might take time for him to embed into the team and stuff. But yeah, no, it's not great. You're not, and they're playing United away. It's away for them, if I'm correct.
At home.
It's at home for them, is it? Oh, I don't know what to say. I mean, look, I could easily be like, yeah, Tottenham are going to lose again, but you know, with the way the Premier League's going, they could easily win as well. So it's just like it's all if buts and maybes, really. But yeah, no, they really need to sort out their home form, because if they don't, then they can't. I don't think they can really even challenge for Europe, let alone like top four. Because that home form, like, I'm not saying win all your games at home, but you gotta, you know, at least have. Realistically, you should have a better home record than an away record, in my opinion. But there you go. That's the way it's been for Tottenham, and we'll see how it goes against United.
Yeah, 100% agreed. They look dodgy, to say the least. But if we move on to the Chelsea side of things, Hassan, great win.
Yep.
You know, again, you know, like we said, it's Tottenham at home, and obviously they haven't been good at home. But on the Chelsea side of things, it's a great result. It's 1-0. It's a clean sheet for a defence, which we said is a little bit dodgy in terms of the centre-back positioning. You know, there was also one moment I wanted to mention, and I don't know whether you want to discuss this really. It was obviously Pedro Neto got subbed off, and he got filmed by that one fan and did that weird face, sticking his tongue out at them, and tried to.
I don't know what he's thinking.
Yeah,
I don't know what. Yeah, exactly. We don't know what he's thinking there. Obviously, it's not really a point of discussion really for the video, but I just wanted to mention that while we were talking about Chelsea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we say this about every team. Can they kick on now? Do you know what I mean? But again, Chelsea haven't been crazy consistent, even though they're in and amongst the top four.
To be fair, the chance creation that game was really good. I think they created a lot of chances to score goals, because I think the scoreline reflects exactly how well they played. It could have been easily 3 or 4-0. If it wasn't for Vicario, he was carrying a dead horse that game.
Crazy.
So yeah, I think if it wasn't for a good goalie in between the sticks for Tottenham, I think it would have easily been a much more embarrassing scoreline. And yeah, from the way Chelsea are playing, everything seems to be good. Thankfully didn't get a red card this game, so maybe signs to change. But I think that like overall, Caicedo's been their best player this season. He's just world class at this moment in time. He's just probably the best midfielder in the world right now. He can arguably say, with the likes of Pedri and Vitinha, the way he carries that Chelsea team is insane. He may not provide exactly what Vitinha and Pedri does, but as a midfielder, he's complete. He just does everything really well. It's just. Joao Pedro also got a goal. He's not having the best form as of late. But a crucial goal from him and good finish as well. But yeah, like in terms of Chelsea, you want them to, as a Chelsea fan, you want to see a bit more consistency, because they haven't been having too much consistency, and a lot of red cards here and there, not good for the team either, losing players. So yeah, hopefully for them, they become a bit more consistent and stop getting red cards, because obviously that does impact you not just for the game but for the next game as well. So very impressive performance from them. The result isn't impressive, but if you watch the game, you know how dominant they were. So all credit goes to them.
Yeah, fair play to them, and they got a very good result. I will say one another thing as well. Obviously, they did buy Garnacho from Manchester United. Thank God for that. got him off our wage bill and give us a little bit of money too. And to be honest, I saw some Chelsea fans, they were analysing sort of attacks and how when Garnacho gets the ball, he slows down the game. You know, he's kind of seen as a quick player, a quick winger, someone who's, you know, able to... But even at United, he slows down the game a lot, and, you know, I think that's a big issue for Chelsea, and it's really strange why he's starting Garnacho and not Jamie Gittins, because I think Garnacho as a bench option is very, very good. I think he can come off the bench and make a big impact. He did that a lot at Manchester United. But I think that maybe Jamie Gittins, because he is quick and good with the ball at his feet, I think he should be the starting left winger, and Garnacho should be the one off the bench. But, you know, that's Maresca's... you know, he's the manager, so it's up to him what he does. And obviously he won the game, so I don't think he really cares. We'll move on to the final game of the Saturday, and that is Liverpool vs Aston Villa. Liverpool finally ending that dreadful losing streak and have won 2-0 against Aston Villa. Again, a very good team. Al, you know, Liverpool, like we said, ended a terrible losing run. I would say personally, before I sort of asked the point I was going to say, they weren't very convincing in the game either. It was a very open game, I would say, and as it has been throughout the whole season. I think that this might be the most convincing game they've had, obviously. To be fair, the goalkeeper didn't really have to make many saves, even though he made that one worldy save from Matty Cash. Do you think now, I said this about so many teams in this video, they can finally kick on and, you know, get back in the title race?
Look, when we talk about consistency, realistically, the only team that have been consistent are Arsenal and maybe City. And like we need, again, I know we're asking if all these teams can be consistent. I think just the way the nature of the Premier League is, it's not necessarily easy. Now, even looking back I know where this is about Liverpool, but I just want to quickly make this point. Even looking back at United and the fact that, you know, a lot of people, I think I saw a video and this guy was mentioning the fact that because the United Strand's hair's gone so big, yeah, that the fact that it makes United look worse than they are because they haven't been able to win 5 games in a row. But realistically, what team's winning 5 games in a row? That is not easy. Like, bro, not many. Only Arsenal and City, in my opinion, are winning 5 games in a row this season. You know what I mean? It's not an easy feat. And also, you got
to take into consideration, Man United aren't even in Europe this season, so they can't even have that as a part of it.
Yeah, obviously, you know what I mean? They obviously have a bit of an advantage with that, but it's still not easy to get 5 wins in a row, you know what I mean? Especially you have like a hard run of games. But anyway, going back to the Liverpool game, fair play to them. I think, like you say, most convincing game they've had so far this season, and they put up a good game, and it was good to see. And I think the most important reason for why this was, in my opinion, was the lineup. I think finally Slot has decided to kind of revert back to the lineups that he had last season, go back to the team that, you know, was reliable from last season. And, you know, obviously having Robertson at left back, obviously Szoboszlai was at right back, which obviously wasn't like that last season, but he's having to adapt because Trent's gone. And yeah, no, just playing those reliable players, but still adding a couple of players like Ekitike, who, what a player, in my opinion. I know Charles was trying to say maybe in Burmo's signing of the season, but I'm not going to lie, I don't think he's been better than Ekitike, in my opinion, or even some other players, to be fair. But yeah, no, like the impact he has, obviously, you know, people thought that Isaac would come in and be the better striker, and considering that he's pen proven, but fair play to Ekitike, he's come to the league, and, you know, something that we always look at is, you know, when a Bundesliga player comes to the league, or even like, you know, German or whatever it is, comes to the league, can they adapt? And fair play to Ekitike, he's done that perfectly, in my opinion. You know, always makes an impact when he plays for Liverpool, and he did it again this time. And looking at, like, it's funny because I remember, obviously I predicted Aston Villa to win the game, but I remember talking to a friend who supports Aston Villa. I was like, surely, you know, at some point Liverpool do have to win a game, you know what I mean? And I had a feeling it'd be this one. And yeah, obviously they went on to win the game, but it doesn't really take much. You can't take much away from Villa because they still put up a really good game. And you know what I mean? It's not like they had a bad performance. I think it was a good performance. It could have gone their way if they got the first goal, but they didn't. And fair play to Liverpool. Now they finally ended the drought. And I think as long as Slot keeps putting that reliable lineup out and only, you know, and slowly implementing the new signings in, then yeah, they can go on and maybe get back in the title race. But it would be very hard. Arsenal will probably have to lose, you know, a couple of games for them to get back into the title race.
Yeah. Obviously, Hassan. If we move on to the Aston Villa side of things, like Ali was saying, they did put up a good performance, and on another day they probably, do get a win or get a good result in that game. But, I did mention about Emi Martinez being their best player this season, and he made a horror mistake, at the end of the first half. Not ideal at all from, obviously when a goalkeeper makes a mistake like that, then you're going to concede because it's, they're the last man, and obviously Mo Salah having an absolute tap in, and, he's not going to miss that. So I wanted to ask sort of the Villa. Is it something to be worried about now? Is Emi Martinez, in terms of ball playing, and to be fair, throughout the whole game, they were very, very scary in terms of for them. And when they're trying to play out from the back and the way Liverpool were pressing
100%.
them, they lost the ball multiple times. Do you think that could be a potential sort of, type of thing where it doesn't really work out for them this season?
I think in that situation where when you play out from the back and it doesn't work out, you should try and improvise and not carry on doing that, because obviously that led to one of the goals, one of the goals that they conceded. So they need to be a bit more smart when it comes to playing out from the back, because it is very risky, high risk, high reward type of thing. But yeah, no, I think there was some very good performances from certain Villa players. I think that Amadou Onana was really good. John McGinn was decent as well, and Morgan Rogers as well. So and Cash as well, to be fair. But there's a lot of good players around that team. They did really well. Tried to get a result and score against Liverpool. But obviously, Liverpool's defense wasn't bad this game. I think they were decent. And obviously the goalie as well. He had a very big stop as well. So you got to give credit to Mamadashvili. But yeah, I wouldn't say this is a worry for Aston Villa. They were coming back from a very good form. So against a team like Liverpool, who is obviously still a world class team, they've just been not very consistent. The performances may not show them to be a very good team, but they are a good team, and they can definitely prove that. But in regards to what Ali has said about Ekitike, I don't think he was that impactful this game. I think he was a bit quiet. I think it was mainly the midfield that were dominating the game. I think Kamara was a bit. Other than not making verts, didn't really do much. I think Onana was kind of running the midfield that game for Aston Villa, and obviously we know Liverpool's midfield is very good. That combo of Gravenberch and McAllister, very good, solid duo for Liverpool. So yeah, I think the midfield is what won them the game pretty much. And yeah, maybe the mistake from Emi Martinez definitely helped as well. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's a worry for Aston Villa. I think they just got to keep their heads held up high and try and look at next week and hopefully try to get a result then.
Yeah, like you said, they had a good performance, but I feel like obviously while I was asking you the question, it sort of came back to me how Aston Villa, they really did try to play out from the back, and a lot of teams do it, and it does cost them. And obviously, I think both goals were coming from them trying to play out from the back. I'm pretty sure it was Emi Martinez who gave the ball away again. I don't really remember, to be honest with you, at the second goal, but it did come from another mistake, I think. But we also did talk about Declan Rice and Moises Caicedo. I think Gravenberch's got to be in that conversation as well. He's been
100%.
unbelievable, obviously being in a title-winning team too, and I'd probably say he's Liverpool's player of the season as well. Like, he's unbelievable. Like, the glow up from when he first joined, and how he when he was at Bayern to begin with, he was a bench player, well, not really playing. The first season at Liverpool, didn't really go well. To last season and now this season as well, being such an impactful player, not just being the CDM, being the destroyer, but carrying the ball, having a massive impact and scoring a lot of goals this season, being very important with that aspect of the game too. So I think he's in that conversation too. Maybe not to the degree. I think he needs to be a bit more consistent to be in the, sort of be really in the conversation with the other two, but I think he's well up there, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's what I have to say about the Liverpool and Aston Villa game. We'll move on to the next game, and we're moving on to a very happy West Ham fan, to say the least. Obviously, West Ham beat Newcastle 3-1. I'm not going to mention anything. Let Al. We seem to do this every time. Al, just go ahead. Go and mention.
I prayed for times like this, man. I prayed for times like this. I swear to God, man. Just seeing that lineup put a tear on my, coming down my cheek, man. Because, bro, I swear to God, it's finally a normal lineup. And look what happens when we play a normal lineup. Yeah, a a left back, a right back, and a striker in striker. You know what I mean? Finally, and it paid off. We won 3-1. What a beautiful win! And the player that I have to give so much credit to, and I'm so happy to finally see him playing, and obviously played well, is Freddie Potts. Got man of the match and well deserved, because what a player, what a young player. I've been saying it so many times that I want to see young players play for West Ham, because I believe our academy is one of the better ones in the Premier League. Obviously, we have the history of the academy. Some of the players that come through back in the past. But even now, even players like Freddie Potts, with a name like Freddie Potts, you have to be good. You know what I mean? It's such a West Ham kind of name, and he performed against Newcastle, and look, he just commanded that midfield. He controlled that midfield. The way we talk about how Caicedo does it for Chelsea, Gravenberch does it for Liverpool, and obviously Rice for Arsenal. I'm not saying we're same level. I'm just saying the fact that he's doing that. I'm just saying the fact he's doing that kind of role for West Ham. And another player that I think is such a great signing that we made, and I really do like him, is Mateus Fernandes. He's a great midfielder. And Paqueta obviously showed up in this game. A lot of people try to downplay Paqueta and, think he's not as good as he is. I think it would be like another Declan Rice situation. I see him going to a bigger club and getting much more credit once he moves. But this guy, when he's on his day, is something else. He is one of the better players in the league, because the creativity that he offers is unbelievable. And Souček getting the goal. I said, as long as you play him not with another person that is shit, and I see BAT even mention him anymore, he can do something. And I said he even offers goals, and he got a goal. Obviously, it was pretty much a tap-in, because I don't know, Pope made a mistake, but who cares? It's a goal. 3-1. What a result. I'm so happy. And I think as long as we put out this lineup again and again, I'm not, we can start to get results, hopefully get out of the relegation zone and start to, I don't think we can really do anything because of how awful the start to the season was, but at least, stay in the league and then move on and work on from there next season. You get what I'm saying? I'm just so happy to see it finally. I prayed for times like this, man. It's about time. Bloody hell, man. And in terms of Newcastle, honestly, quite surprised me. I thought they'd play a lot better. And to be honest, after that goal in the 4th minute, I was like, shit, here we go again. You know what I mean? I thought this was about to be it again. I thought we were going to lose like 3-1. But fair play, we stayed in there and got the win in the end. And I think it was well deserved, to be fair.
Yeah, 100%, Like we said, we talked about the lineup before the game, and obviously it paid off. Hassan, obviously, Ali mentioned a bit about Newcastle. Obviously not performing at the level we're kind of used to from them. Do you think it's more them not performing well, or do you think it's actually West Ham finally being able to click?
I think it's a mixture of both, to be honest. It's kind of hard to say as well, because obviously West Ham did, have a very good performance. So you can't really say Newcastle didn't try their best. They had a few chances, but I think the goalkeeper, he was good as well that game. And the defense, held up pretty well. Against the side of Newcastle, we've got a very strong attack, especially the likes of Voltemada and Bruno Guimaraes and Murphy. That's a very solid attack. And they had a few fair chances. I think Gordon also had a few chances, but obviously they were saved. Newcastle, we know them; they're a very good team, but I think they've been quite inconsistent this season as well. They've had good wins against certain teams, but against other teams, not so much. And quite disappointing for them. Especially a Champions League side. I think they should be a bit more consistent and better. But you got to give credit to West Ham. I think they had a very good game overall. I think every player did their job and did it really well. And you can't really fault West Ham, at all. For Newcastle, for a team like that, they should definitely be getting more results, or having better performances, and there's not really much to say other than they gotta try and look to the next game and try to do better than what they did against West Ham.
100%. I think Newcastle, again, they had a bit of an off game. It can happen, again, West Ham had a great game, and obviously Al was mentioned about the midfield. I think that is the major thing. We talked about so many different teams and how having the correct sort of midfield players there and how much that can affect the game. They performed against probably maybe one of the best midfields in the league, Tonali, Joelinton and Guimaraes, and West Ham's midfield came out on top really. Potts having a great game, Mateus Fernandes getting an assist and Paqueta getting a goal, you know what I mean? So, all credit to West Ham and how well they performed. And you see what happens when we mentioned this so many times, when you play a striker at striker and not a winger at striker or a midfielder at striker, and obviously players in their correct position, it clicks, because every person knows their role and every person knows what to do. So credit where credit's due. So fair play to Nuno for getting his first win, and I can definitely see West Ham building on it. Let's move on to the next game. And it is a Manchester City win against a very good Bournemouth side. Al, we can mention Haaland every day, every single game. He seems to be very important. And there was a stat, and I'm pretty sure everyone's seen this stat, the fact that Haaland's got like 13 goals in the Prem. The next top goal scorer for them was the Burnley defender, Steven or something. Steven or something like that.
Or something like that. I don't know what's his name.
Steven, something like that. He's got 2 goals and every other City player's only got 1. I mentioned this before about Man City having a reliance on Haaland in terms of goals. Obviously, Cherki performed well and got 2 assists, but do you agree with that? Do you think if, let's say, Haaland gets injured, they lose that goal threat?
I mean, of course, it would be stupid to say that they wouldn't, because Haaland is literally like Thanos at this rate. He's just so inevitable in every flipping game, you know what I mean? Scoring goals every game, scored 2 again. And I saw a stat that he hasn't been offside this season. Still hasn't been offside once. Do you know how crazy that is? And I believe since he's come to City or something like that, he's only been offside 18 times. 18 times. Do you know how crazy that is? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously that's credit to not only him, but the balls that are getting played into him, by some great players. Obviously Cherki, De Bruyne back in the day, stuff like this. It's obviously not just him, but his attacking awareness is unrivaled in the Premier League. I don't think there's anyone like him, and I could keep banging on about how good he is, but I don't need to, because everyone can see how good he is. But something I have to say, and you got to give credit to, is, and it's quite obvious because we know how good this manager is Pep Guardiola. We know how good he's, one of the best managers in history, not just in the Premier, not in the world, in history. Arguably the best manager in history. And I even saw a tactical breakdown of what he changed this game to beat Bournemouth, and it was the fact that the way Bournemouth press, he changed the setup by bringing in the wingers inside, and it completely changed the game for them, and they ended up winning the game, obviously. And you talk about, if Haaland gets injured, what would they do? I think Pep Guardiola is so smart that he would know how to adapt to that. Maybe I could be wrong, and maybe, obviously, because there is a reliance on him, it could go wrong. But I think because of how smart he is, he'd probably figure something out. Obviously, they'd probably not be as good, 100%, but I'm sure they'd be able to figure something out and, carry on winning games. And in terms of, Bournemouth, I don't think it's nothing to worry about. I think they played really well, to be fair to them. I just think, when Man City are on their day, playing at their best, they're unstoppable, you know what I mean? And to be fair, credit to Bournemouth, they still got a goal, probably because there was a mistake from Donnarumma, to be fair, but still, they still played decent, to be fair to them. And that's all I've got to say on the game, to be fair.
Like you said, Man City, fantastic, and they and Pep, obviously, we don't need to say much about him. He's his history is there in the footballing, period.
Bugs.
When we talk about Bournemouth, though, Hassan, obviously they lost the game, and like Ali was saying, they probably had a decent performance. Didn't really let themselves down, but it's another team that likes to play out from the back, and you probably say that cost them as well. We've seen it with a lot of teams against teams like Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal, trying to play out from the back, and teams with a good press and, with a good system that can sort of counteract that, type of play. Like we said about Aston Villa, do you think they just needed to change it, or, what do you think of Bournemouth's performance?
100%. I think that, when you play out from the back, you need to be aware of who you're playing against, If you're playing against a team like Liverpool or Man City, for example, you need to make sure that, you're not, giving any risky balls to the other team. You need to play safe, because sometimes against these teams, it can punish you for making a small mistake, or a mistake that seems small at first, but then, becomes a goal in the end. So, you definitely need to be careful when it comes to that. But I don't think that's a terrible performance at all. I think they, tried their best. They got a goal at the end of the day. It's not like they got completely thrashed. I just think, they got outclassed, obviously, by a team that's obviously got, better players in general. I mean, I think Bournemouth do have very good players, but obviously to level Man City, of course not. Like, I don't think they can be compared, especially when you have Haaland on the other team. It's pretty hard to outgun them in terms of goals. And not really much I can say about Bournemouth. It's just unfortunate for them. They tried their best, but it just wasn't enough. And you got to give credit to City. Shirky had a very good game, and he's proven that he's a very exciting young player. And I mean, for City, hopefully he does well and becomes more consistent, and no more injuries for him. And Haaland, we could talk about Haaland all day, but he speaks for himself. He's just a very good striker. He always shows up every single game, and and I think if he does get injured, I think it'll be a massive blow for City, and they won't be the same team without him. So as a City fan, you hope that nothing like that happens, and he carries on, continuing scoring goals.
100%. I've talked about it a lot, and obviously it's not an issue at the moment. Haaland's fantastic. He's up there with Mbappe and Kane, and these guys are scoring 2 goals or at least a game. It's really sort of scary how well they are doing this season, and maybe making the Ballon d'Or conversation a bit more interesting, because you could probably say the last 2 seasons has been relatively boring in terms of who has been in for the Ballon d'Or, and in terms of goals and assists and those type of stats. So, long may the conversation happen, and I think Haaland is not going to stop anytime soon. Unless, obviously, like we mentioned, a potential injury. But, with players like Cherki, who's such an intelligent footballer, and obviously under Pep Guardiola will only get better. I don't know if he's ever going to reach the level of Kevin De Bruyne, and that's obviously a crazy thing to say, because, he's probably arguably the best midfielder in Premier League history. I think Cherki is such a complete footballer in terms of he's so two-footed. I don't even think he knows what foot he uses to prefer. You know what I mean? Obviously, he got that beautiful headed assist, which was very similar to a De Bruyne assist, the one where he curled it in with the... Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, Cherki's a fantastic footballer. And, we also saw Nico O'Reilly, who also had a very good game. Another player from the Manchester City Academy. They've got a lot of them, Rico Lewis, Phil Foden, obviously O'Reilly, and they have a lot of young players coming through too. So, Man City look like they're going to be back and going to be there for a while. So, let's not worry about that. I say we move on to the final game. I don't know what you guys think. And it was today's game, Sunderland vs Everton. Finished 1-1. Honestly, probably one of the better games I've seen. Very, very open game, and I think at the end of the day, maybe a draw was not very fair. Maybe you could say on Sunderland. We'll talk about the Sunderland side of things. Mm-hmm. To be honest, near the end of the game, they had 2 moments where you could probably say VAR maybe could have given them 2 penalties, or 1 at least. There was obviously that handball from Michael Keane. And there was that chance for Mukiele where he had that header and he missed, but he did get kicked in the face. At least it looked like it from certain angles. Obviously, we know how these type of decisions can change and affect games. Do you think that Sunderland potentially got robbed and probably should have got the win?
The handball was a bit of a weird one. I thought that was going to get given, to be honest. I'm surprised that it didn't, and I think it's a bit disgraceful, but it's not something we're not used to in the Premier League anymore with these kind of decisions. To be fair, I thought it'd at least get looked at, you know what I mean, by VAR a bit more, and maybe go to the ref or whatever it is, but obviously he just got shrugged off straight away pretty much, which was crazy to me. Obviously that would have probably won them the game. But to be fair to Sunderland, they probably should have won that game because of the amount of chances they were having towards the second half of the season, of the game, not the season. Oh my god! In the game, the second half of the game, they were absolutely cooking. And to be fair, I thought they'd get the second goal and win the game. But fair play to Everton. They held in, they defended well, and managed to get the point, which I think is a big point for them. I know they start off the game better. To be fair to them, I think they were better maybe in especially the first half of the first half. But Sunderland just grew into the game, got their first goal, which was really well taken by Granit Xhaka. I know it was a massive deflection, but still, you know what I mean? It was a good goal. And, fair play. I think Sunderland are a great team. It was such a good game to watch. I really enjoyed it, to be fair. And I thought it would be one of the games to watch, to be fair. I did say it in the last video, and it turned out to be like that. And even Everton, to be fair, I think either of the teams could win that game because towards the end, obviously, I think it was Ballard, or I think his name is, made a mistake, gave away the ball, and I'm surprised Everton didn't take advantage of that chance. I think Alcaraz has got to do better there, and it's unfortunate for them that he didn't, but obviously thankfully for Sunderland that he messed it up. But obviously, I think either team could have won that game personally, but I think Sunderland just had the edge and probably had better chances, to be fair to them.
Yeah, agreed. I think Sunderland probably were the better side at the end of the day, but if we move on to the Everton side of things, Hassan, we have, and we've all discussed this player in particular, Iliman Ndiaye. Absolutely fantastic goal. You can't praise the goal enough, and I was, we were obviously in our group chat, we were sort of discussing it during the game, how for me he reminds me of a Hazard 2.0 in terms of the way he runs with the ball and how he scored that goal. He's unbelievable. Obviously not just him, even Jack Grealish I thought had a great game, if I'm honest, creating a lot of chances, being very dangerous and direct, Drewsbury Hall being good. Overall it was a great game, and I think that Everton, maybe you say Sunderland were better, but what do you think about the Everton performance?
I think Everton put up a good fight. I mean, obviously, as Sunderland, the better side, but I still think they were decent. They weren't completely, outmatched. I think they had the chances, they had the moments, but obviously not enough to, get a win. But yeah, you gotta give credit to them. They've had, some of the players have very had solid performances, but one player who should definitely not be in Everton right now, or starting for Everton, is Barry. He just, what has he done for them at all? He's just there for vibes at this point.
Get him in Baller League.
Literally, like, what is he even doing in the Premier League at this point? Like, he's just a waste of space. Like, I mean, in terms of Iliman Ndiaye, like, yeah, we know him. He's a great player. Like the way he took that goal and drilled past the defense and just scored that top bins. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, it's just the type of goal you see from a world-class player, like the likes of Hazard and Salah, these are the type of players who just cut in inside, just drill past defenders and score. Brilliant goal from him. And there's a few standout performances as well. Idrissa Gana Gueye was good as well. Pickford made a couple of saves, and Grealish as well. He's been a very good and important player for Everton. And there are definitely players in Everton who, have come in with big performances, and I wouldn't say this is it's still a draw at the end of the day. I think both teams are I say not evenly matched, but fairly equal in terms of their firepower. Both teams can provide danger to any side in the Premier League. But of course, Sunderland this season have been the better team. I think a bit more consistent. But I think Everton this season have been not transformed by a huge amount, but definitely have been transformed by with certain players like Grealish coming in. He's coming and definitely changed Everton's attack line. So credit to them for having a good performance, and they definitely need to invest in the striker, because I don't think Barry is going to cut it for them.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Beto is a decent player in his own right, but again, he's not at the level that Everton I think need. They need a proper striker. Probably the last good striker they had was, I would say, Romelu Lukaku. Maybe there's someone I'm forgetting, but
Richarlison, I guess you could say.
Yeah. He was good for Everton. To be fair, you can give him that, but I would say as a proper striker, Lukaku was the last one. They could probably say, he was up there with the top strikers in the league. I will mention one more point. I love to analyse midfield players, and you know what it is? I said that Burma was probably the signing of the season last time. Xhaka, this is probably the first full game I've watched him play for Sunderland, and bloody hell, he's incredible, isn't he? He just dictates the play from deep, obviously gets the goal, clutching up for them. Honestly, he's from the comeback he made from, how he was so poor at Arsenal at the beginning and, near the middle part of his time there, having bad experiences with the fans. The comeback he made, the end to his Arsenal career. Obviously, that season he had just before he went to Bayern Leverkusen, he built up a lot of consistency and was great for them. And obviously, what he did at Bayern Leverkusen was unbelievable. And now he's come to Sunderland. Everyone was sort of taking the piss out of him. Oh, why is he joining a promoted side? Oh, he's there for the money. He's come in and he's been absolutely fantastic and been one of the major reasons why they've done so well this season. So, for me, credit what credit's due. Probably one of the signings of the season, if not the signing of the season. And, fair play. That's all I can say really about that. But yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you for coming in. Before we end it, Al, do you want to give us the quiz on the new player?
Yes, let's go with the first fact, which is, let me get up. He began his senior career at Srem, a small Serbian club in the lower divisions, before moving to OFK Beograd, where European scouts first noticed him. The second fact, he was selected for the UEFA Team of the Year in 2009, one of the rare defenders from Chelsea to earn that honour. The third fact, he scored the winning goal in the 2013 Europa League final against Benfica, a looping header in stoppage time. For the fourth fact, he holds the record for the most goals by a defender in Chelsea's history, scoring over 30 across all competitions. And for the fifth and final fact, after leaving Chelsea, he rejoined the Russian Premier League with Zenit St. Petersburg, winning the league and later becoming club captain. Let us know in the comments if you know who that is, and we'll reveal him in the next episode.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming in. Really appreciate it. Listen, if you guys have opinions on the games as well, please leave it in the comments below. We love the interaction. We love how you guys recently have been commenting a lot, and hopefully you guys can give us more interaction too, so we can discuss with you guys as well. So we really appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming in. Please leave a like, subscribe.
Let's not forget the leaderboard, by the way. The leaderboard.
Oh yeah, completely. You see, I don't want to hear it. I hate the leaderboard. I'm sorry. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you want to put the leaderboard here as well. Yeah. Obviously, I don't care much. It's probably between Hassan and Ali for who's gonna win it.
There's a 2-horse race at this point.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, I'm gonna have to get that shirt pre-ordered at this point. Yeah, it's very poor, very very poor for me. But the other boys are doing quite well, so fair play to them. Yeah. Let's actually get to ending the video now. So thank you guys for coming in. Please leave a like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell so you can receive notifications to know when we upload videos, and we will see you on the next one. Take care, guys.
See ya.